Remember how last preseason, Tyser Denmark was generating buzz? Well, this time around, it's not just one freshman, it's four.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State football. And as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. My name is Zach Seyko, and I'm your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State wrestling. The running game might have been dealt a hit. James Franklin actually offered a little subtle insight as to why Penn State might not have the running game it wants to early in the season. But we got to talk about these four Penn State true freshmen that are generating buzz and how soon they could make an impact. Where are they on the depth chart at this given moment? And will that change over the course of the season? Friendly reminder, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. And thank you to the everydayers for making Locked On Nittany Lions a part of your regular routine. The four Penn State freshmen, three of them are on defense. I think that's good when you have Jim Knowles coming in, running a somewhat of a new system, right? That you have four players that are inexperienced stepping up, and three of them are on the defensive side. So those four players, and wide receiver, everybody wants to talk about wide receiver. One of them is a wide receiver. Two defensive linemen, Yvan Kemajou and Chaz Coleman. Important because they're both defensive ends. Then defensive back, Daryus Dixson. We have heard so much about Daryus Dixon. Everybody's going to know his name at some point in time, whether it is truly this season, as far as him making a strong impact, or later on down the road, because I do think he's a star player. And Koby Howard. Everybody's talking about Koby Howard since spring football because wide receiver, it's a pain point for Penn State fans right now. It hasn't been good, to say the least, over the past few seasons. And Koby Howard could offer Penn State some stability this season. So why is James Franklin all ready to declare, in particular, three of them? Now, Koby Howard hasn't been recognized as much recently by Penn State's head coach, but over the course of spring football, into preseason camp here, Koby Howard is still a part of this group, but he did primarily single out three players at one of the more recent press conferences. And Kemajou, Dixon, and Coleman were the ones that he highlighted. At defensive end, you can now see why Penn State had no issues having an Nye White switch positions and going from, he's transferred defensive end from Texas A&M, and he moves over from defensive end to defensive tackle because they got that insurance. Yvan Kemajou, spring football standout, still carrying that over into fall camp, which is so important. But Chaz Coleman's the one that's really the difference maker here. This is why you can afford to move a Nye White over to defensive tackle and experiment there. This isn't about a Nye White, though. Chaz Coleman, the fact that Penn State is willing to move a defensive end away to defensive tackle just to see if they can unlock some untapped potential there. But Chaz Coleman, somebody who did not enroll early, somebody that hasn't really been playing football that long, he's just a defensive end specifically, has come in and honestly probably has been the most impressive of the true freshmen. I know Koby Howard's going to be a special player. Same thing with Daryus Dixon. Yvan Kemajou. I mean, Penn State's going to trust these players right out of the gate. But Coleman in particular is very impressive, to say the least, because of the development, the trajectory, the way this recruitment went. And Coleman's going to factor in. But Penn State has that confidence to where they can say, we're willing to take a step back on the depth chart because we like what we have with Chaz Coleman. It's even more telling because Max Granville got hurt. And I don't like bringing that up. Granville, most likely out for the season based on how the discourse went around the summer. James Franklin seemed very disappointed, as he should be. That was an up-and-coming player. That was a breakout player for this season. Penn State, in a sense, gets lucky. I mean, all the work pays off. All the recruiting, all the scouting, that pays off. Because, yeah, you lose Granville, but in the process, Chaz Coleman with this opportunity to step up, somebody was going to step up, and it's a true freshman. So look to Chaz Coleman as one of those defensive ends that I'm not here to say that he's going to be a top 3 pick like an Abdul Carter, but think of him as that Chop Robinson, that superstar weak side defensive end in the making that's just going to give offenses headaches. So I don't know if he's going to be a top 5 future NFL draft pick, but if all things go well, I mean, Penn State is very high on these players for a reason. Yvan Kemajou is your strong side defensive end. He stood out to me originally at the blue-white game because Dennis Sutton had the spring season to rest, recover, heal. He certainly earned it. I can't speak to any injuries or anything like that, but he had the spring season to recover. That opened the door for Kemajou to be that first strong side defensive end, and that is extremely telling for a prospect, a 3-star, low-end 4-star. Again, recruiting rankings don't dictate these things. And Kemajou, it is difficult at defensive line to play and be a part of the rotation very early on. So Coleman to do this, but Kemajou at strong side defensive end, because you got to put on the weight. You got to put on the strength, and Kemajou athletically has responded extremely well. Now let's get to Daryus Dixon and then Koby Howard. We'll save Koby Howard because he's the lone offensive player in this group. But Daryus Dixon, I think, is going to be a superstar. I think is going to be eventually that shutdown cornerback. Joey Porter Jr., the guy that just lines up, take away this side of the football field, shadow the number 1 wide receiver, and gets the job done. He is a future bona fide number 1 cornerback. And so as long as he continues on his path, on his trajectory. Jim Knowles, who has been coaching for a very long time, and I'm not trying to date him, but he's seen a lot of college football. He's scouted a lot. He's coached tons of players. And Knowles has said this multiple times to the media, that Dixon is arguably the best freshman, true freshman that he's ever seen and coached at this point in time. Over how many decades of football? And Knowles can say that confidently? At Penn State, he's been at Ohio State. He's coached at other Power 4 programs. He's been a head coach. And he says Daryus Dixon is the furthest ahead that he's ever seen from a true freshman. And he likes to point out that Dixon is an early enrollee, not from the sense of, he joined for spring football season. No, he should be in his final year of high school. He's not. So he's even more developmentally ahead of everybody else. Now let's talk about Koby Howard. Koby Howard came in, interesting recruitment to say the least. It carried on for quite some time, and then ultimately a commitment happened. But Howard can play sooner rather than later. There's an opportunity there at wide receiver. Howard, though, in spring football, the route running, the strength, the aggression, these guys are all, they're all Penn State football players for a reason. None of them are timid, but you do see that progress. I mean, he looked like a veteran player where he was willing to lay out a block, where he's not afraid to go up and make a catch. See that at these practice sessions. So he had the look of someone that's not going through his first spring football season, not going through his first set of practices. Like he's been there for a few years. That's going to get you playing time. That's going to get you on the football field. These guys are going to play. So what is their outlook? What is their impact right away? Where are they now? Could any of them start at some point in time? We'll get to that and more coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't too far behind. And whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Maybe you're a fan of Aaron Rodgers. Running back, Saquon Barkley. You can select from any of these players on PrizePicks. And PrizePicks has an intriguing feature. the flex play. It's an option that is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you can still double your money. That's the power of the flex play. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you make your first $5 play. That is PrizePicks. Run your game. So these guys are going to play in some capacity. Some are going to play more than others. To start, I don't know about all that. Now, Daryus Dixon, I actually might give somewhat of a chance because he's so versatile, playing cornerback. Hey, if you want to throw him at safety, but he's going to primarily be a cornerback. He is factoring into that slot cornerback battle. I firmly believe that Zion Tracy is there and is going to anchor that spot in the slot. We'll figure it out with Davian Collins, Elliott Washington. All of these guys are going to play. Penn State's cornerback room in particular is loaded. And Daryus Dixon adds to that. But Dixon, the fact that he is truly in a starting competition, hey, Jim Knowles said it. Jim Knowles has admitted it, that Dixon is competing for extra playing time, starting type of reps. So I would say that he is the closest. Because Koby Howard is behind the likes of a Trevor. We know that it's clear everywhere else. There aren't starting battles at wide receiver. Trevor Pena is going to be in the slot. Kyron Hudson and Devontae Ross are going to be on the outside. And then at defensive end, you know that Zariah Fisher starting at the weak side defensive end, and you know that Denai Dennis Sutton is going to start at the strong side defensive end. Okay, so are they the next men up? Daryus Dixon, I can say that not with necessarily a guarantee, but he's going to be in that 2-deep rotation. And he's going to play sooner rather than later. Yvan Kemajou and Chaz Coleman at defensive line, that's where it gets intriguing because Jalen Harvey and Malachi Williams are redshirt freshmen, second-year players that have to step up as well with the absence of Max Granville. They are competing for those same kinds of reps. But as the season progresses, I believe that Kemajou is strong side defensive end number 2 competing with Malachi Williams. Chaz Coleman would be your defensive end number 3 on the weak side, rushing towards the left tackle. Jalen Harvey is impressing as well. It's fortunate for Penn State, again, because you lose Abdul Carter. You need a new rotation to step up. Yeah, Denai Dennis Sutton's going to be that star caliber player at defensive end in particular. Zariah Fisher, in and out of the lineup with injuries, he's expected to have a strong impact, but you need the depth behind them. So Kemajou, Coleman, the way that they're trending could be second string as the season goes on. I think Kemajou is that second guy behind Denai Dennis Sutton. But again, they are true freshmen. So if there's going to be things that trip them up when the opponents are running an offense, that's why a lot of times you don't see first-year players play. It's not because they don't have the raw ability. It's a lot of it is that they get tricked, they slip up. It's not just can you bull rush somebody. It's can you recognize the play? Can you understand it in real time and not get fooled? Then on the offensive side, Koby Howard. So we can report this because we saw this at practice a week ago, and we're going to have another practice to go through and see, hey, did anything change, or is this still consistent with what we saw last time? Koby Howard's running with the 1s and 2s. So to think that Howard is going to, he's going to need to take a red shirt, and no, he's already, I think he is in serious contention to be one of those next men up. Kind of like Daryus Dixon, he's not going to start at wide receiver. You know, anything can happen. Opportunities can arise. I don't want to see that be the case. I'm alluding to injuries here. But Koby Howard, after Trevor Pena, Devontae Ross, and Kyron Hudson, Liam Clifford, Tyseer Denmark, who was generating buzz last season, we really didn't see him in make that impact this season. Now, Koby Howard is doing that. And I believe that they will, because there is an opportunity for him as that sixth wide receiver. Those are going to be your first five there. The three transfers, Clifford, along with Denmark. And then there's that sixth spot when they run three wide receiver sets where Koby Howard's going to be, I think, that last player. But Josiah Brown is battling for that spot. Peter Gonzalez as well. Anthony Ivy. Koby Howard at least has shown me enough progress that they can trust him to be that sixth player. And right out of the gate, I don't even know that they're going to wait where, Chaz Coleman and Daryus Dixon, they're going to see their roles increase. It could be safe to say that Koby Howard has that role right out of the gate and is already active fairly in the rotation. So if I had to rank them, I think Daryus Dixon's definitely up there, Koby Howard as well. And then because what Penn State has at defensive end, Chaz Coleman and Yvan Kemajou, they're going to have to wait their turn a little bit, see some opportunities arise, but they're creating them. That's why we're talking about four freshmen generating buzz, because they are creating these opportunities. They are creating these opportunities. They are not letting them just fall to them. And that's what separates good football players from great football players, right? Let's finish with this. Penn State's running game may have been dealt a hit here. James Franklin did not seem too happy about the answer he had to give when it came to the battle at running back number 3. We're going to talk about what he told us and what it means coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's show is brought to you by DripDrop. When I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything is working better. My energy, my mood, my focus. But getting enough fluids every day isn't always easy. That's why I've been loving DripDrop. DripDrop is doctor developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. I've tried DripDrop for myself and it lives up to the hype. I got the zero sugar variety pack, the citrus kind. And let me say this, if you get zero sugar, you are not compromising on flavor. You are not compromising on taste. And I had to get the variety pack because I wanted to try all of them. Citrus, orange, pink lemonade, cherry limeade, all of those flavors come in that citrus variety pack. You can try it for yourself. Right now, DripDrop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head over to DripDrop.com. Use promo code LockedOnCollege. That's DripDrop.com. Promo code LockedOnCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. And today's episode is also brought to you by OpenPhone. If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone. So you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? OpenPhone solves that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more who's handling this, who's handling that. And the AI agent handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads, so you're never going to miss a customer again. See why 60,000 businesses trust OpenPhone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnCollege. That is OpenPhone.com/LockedOnCollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. So at a recent press conference, James Franklin was asked about the running back 3 battle. And that includes primarily 3 players. I would include Tyke Hayes as well. He enrolled early, and so we're going to factor him in. Penn State likes him a lot. But Cam Wallace coming back from injury, and then the 2 redshirt freshmen, Corey Smith and Quinton Martin. I like Corey Smith a lot. I like Quinton Martin even more as those second-year running backs. I think Quinton Martin gives you the full skill set of he can block, he can catch, he can run routes. He can be a power runner, a speed runner. I mean, he's fast for his size. Corey Smith, shifty, a little bit of a smaller build. So I'm curious to see how he handles blocking. That's why I think Quinton Martin is the all-encompassing running back here. But, I mean, Corey Smith is certainly the quickest, and he might have better ball carrier vision at the end of the day. I need to see more of it. We saw them in spurts a season ago. Quinton Martin in particular dealt with some injuries, some bumps and bruises here and there. But that's what's going on. So we'll get some more clarity into it. James Franklin did not seem too thrilled about the answer he had to give. He said the RB3 battle is completely wide open. Okay. I mean, that's fair because Martin, Corey Smith, Cam Wallace, they're all kind of on an even level right now. And Tyke Hayes in as well. But he did allude to the fact, without naming names, without saying and pointing the media in any specific direction, did say that guys were dealing with bumps and bruises and have been in and out of practice, so there really hasn't been any movement there. Okay, let me offer my perspective now. At the last practice, and hopefully this, again, we're going to have another practice open session to see all of this, I did not see Quinton Martin. I did not see Corey Smith. I did not see Cam Wallace. So all three of the players, and again, it was a hot day. There's a chance that, hey, maybe they weren't available for those 15 to 20 minutes, right? There is that chance. I want to preface that there. They're going through preseason camp. Sometimes you just need rest in that interval. Maybe those are the players that James Franklin's alluding to. Well, all three of them were not present. I think that's kind of telling. That is a major hit to the running game because, well, you still have Nicholas Singleton and Kaytron Allen, but it doesn't allow Penn State to utilize them the way that they want to. They brought them both back for a reason because they intend to run a lot of 2 running back sets where they are both on the football field. If you're missing not 1, not 2, but 3 of your running backs who are all capable of handling some form of workload. Cam Wallace was RB3 last year and then dealt with a significant injury that ended his season, and he's back. He's practicing. Well, he was practicing, and now we don't know his status at this point in time. Status is TBD for all 3 of these players. That's what it is. And if they're not available, if they're not even at full strength, you have to go back to where it's truly a timeshare, where Nicholas Singleton and Kaytron Allen are splitting reps rather than taking them together, because then you really don't want to take a hit at your running back depth at all. It's not even about RB3 anymore. It's about preserving your ground game as a whole so you don't get into a situation where, okay, you have another one and a superstar player that's hurt. Then you got to turn to the true freshmen in Tyke Hayes and Jabri Wallace-Coleman. I like them plenty. I think they will be quality running backs at the end of the day. But right now, that is a significant drop-off from Singleton and Allen to Tyke Hayes and Jabri Wallace-Coleman. So Penn State has to figure that out. Hopefully it's all okay. Again, it's a to be determined. But that really does force Penn State's hand a little bit with how Andy Kotelnicki wants to run the offense and what Penn State wants to do. You want to maximize. Part of the reason this passing game is going to be so much more effective this season is because Singleton and Allen are going to catch passes. It's the variety of options that Drew Aller has between tight end with Dinkins and Reynolds and Rapplier, but then at wide receiver, it's not just one player that a defense has to focus on. It's Trevor Pena, it's Devontae Ross, it's Kyron Hudson. It's all of them collectively together, the wide receivers, the tight ends, and the running backs. You can't use Nicholas Singleton like that as much, as frequently. You can't have Allen and Singleton both on the football field at the same time if your depth chart is not intact. So I find this really intriguing. What's going on with RB3, with Quinton Martin, Corey Smith, and Cam Wallace being absent at the most recent practice? Maybe things change. I'm holding out some optimism. James Franklin, again, will disclose or at least give us that insight, offer insight if there's anything serious, anything long-term. But at this point in time, it is a wait-and-see situation. But I'm here to say that even if 2 of them All three of them, that's a little suspicious, but two of them missing time, it factors in because Penn State wants to run not only 2 running back sets, but 3 running back sets. They want to get really creative this season. We're going to watch that running back depth chart. It's not about the battle. It's also about who's just available in general. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Appreciate you checking out some more training camp intel as we are so close to week 1. It's against Nevada, but college football is back this week. Penn State football is back next week, and we're going to continue to break down practice observations, analyze Penn State's situation going into the season, what to expect, which players are standing out. My name is Zach Seyko, your host of the show as always. Thank you so much for joining me. Friendly reminder, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Thank you to the everydayers for making us a part of your regular routine. If you're not an everydayer, become one. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around all of your favorite Penn State sports teams.